I was wasting away in a run-down bar on Christmas Eve when the Lady of the End came for me. Sitting with my back to the entrance, I felt a sharp gust of winter air brush the nape of my neck as she stepped into the shadowy joint. The bartender's face went pale when he spotted her, and without a word, he pointed to himself, silently asking if she'd come to claim him. "No, Mike," she said, her voice deep and smooth. "Not this time." I didn't turn to see who'd just walked into the tarnished anchor. Then a hand, cold as frost, landed on my shoulder, its chill seeping through my sweater and sinking straight into my bones. "Finish your drink, Emily," she said, settling onto the worn vinyl stool next to me and resting her hands on the grimy counter. I nearly choked when I realized who she was. She matched every tale I'd ever heard, a harbinger of the end dressed up as a striking woman with fair skin and flowing dark hair. Her cloak shimmered with silver-edged crow feathers, like something torn from a fairy tale. In a world where divine beings mingled with us mortals, everyone in the bar knew her on sight. And her scent, the one that soothes whoever she's after, erased any doubt. She was here for me. My time was up. I stared into my half-empty glass, swallowing the knot of dread in my throat. Not everyone got a face-to-face with the Lady of the End when their clock ran out, and I couldn't figure out why I'd earned the honor. "I've had my eye on you for a while," she said, leaning closer. "Well, the cancer's back for the third round," I said with a dry chuckle. "Guess you've been annoyed with Dr. Carter's knack for keeping me kicking." "Quite the opposite," she replied, raising an eyebrow. "I've been struck by how hard you fight to keep me at bay." I frowned and took a tiny sip of my drink. Just a little one. She'd let me linger till it was gone, so I'd stretch it out as long as I could. I glanced at her, watching her trace a finger through a wet ring left by someone else's glass. What did she make of this shabby hole where I'd chosen to spend my holiday? It sure wasn't a grand finale for my sorry little life. "I've got an offer for you," she said, clasping her hands again. "A way around what's coming, if you're interested." "Okay," I said, stirring the ice and lemon slice in the bottom of my glass with the last of Mike's generous pour. The Lady of the End didn't seem like the type to haggle with mortals, but what did I know? "I need a helper, someone to lighten my load," she said, taking a slow breath and letting it out. "The world's a mess these days. Wars, chaos, sickness. With so many humans around now, I'm stretched thinner than I'd prefer." "Are you giving me a job?" I asked, peering into the depths of her eyes. It sounded absurd. "Sort of," she said. "Think of it as a step up from being a cancer-worn college washout with no one left," I cut in. "I was going to say mortal, but call it what you want," she said with a shrug. "What makes you think I'd be any good at it?" I asked. There was no way I was cut out for whatever she had in mind. "I've got a hunch about you," she said, her tone warm and sure. "Maybe it's the curve of your letters when you write, or the precise color of your nails." I glanced at my chipped polish. "Could be the essay you wrote in 4th grade, or the pattern of freckles across your shoulders." None of that seemed to add up to me being fit to assist a divine being. "Fine. What's the pay?" With nothing tying me to this life and the tumors growing inside me, I figured I had little to lose. Here I was, alone in a dingy bar on Christmas Eve, after all. "Eternal life," she said simply. She paused, studying the shock on my face, then smiled. "I said it was a step up from mortality." "What would I even do as your helper?" I asked. Her deal sounded too perfect. There had to be a downside. "We'll sort that out later," she said, brushing it off with a wave. She glanced at my almost empty glass as I took the last sip. "So, do we have an agreement?" "Sure," I said with a breathy sigh. Whatever the twist was, it couldn't be worse than what I was facing. She extended a thin, icy hand, and I shook it, her cold piercing me to my core again. But as we locked the deal, a warmth spread through me, making her chill irrelevant. My hand turned a golden tan, like I'd been lounging on a beach for weeks. The ache in my body vanished, and my senses, sight, sound, smell, sharpened all at once. I pulled off my glasses, no longer needing them, and slipped them aside. I could hear every quiet murmur in the bar, and her scent, fresh rain and cedar, hit me so strong it drowned out the bar's musty air. Mike popped up again, looking startled at my sudden change. I wondered if my mousy brown hair and hazel eyes were still the same, or if they'd shifted like my skin. She raised 2 fingers to him, signaling a toast to our pact. He fumbled to mix us drinks, keeping his eyes down this time. "Do you remember your last date?" she asked lightly, tracing the water ring on the counter again. "Yeah," I said, brow creasing. "It was a couple years back. A girl named Rachel. We didn't really click, though." Mike slid 2 drinks our way and whisked my empty glass off. She gave him a nod of thanks before he vanished again. She lifted her drink delicately, took a small sip, and raised her brows. "Not bad," she said. "Didn't expect this place to pour something this decent. I should toss him an extra year or 2. "Huh, a year or 2 more to live," she explained. "I spooked him good just walking in here. Least I can do is give him more time with his little granddaughter." "Oh," I said, then sipped my own drink. It was fine, but not worth extra life. "Do you get out often?" It felt odd asking that of an all-knowing deity. "Not like this," she said, then let out a stiff laugh. "I'm usually swamped, you know." "Right. What didn't work with Rachel?" she asked, circling back to my old date out of nowhere. "No clue," I said, swirling my glass. Honestly, I wasn't sure why it fizzled. "Why's it matter?" "Just wondering," she said, looking away. She took another sip. "You do like women, though, right?" I couldn't help but laugh. "Yeah, sure." I peeked at her and thought I saw a faint flush on her stark white cheeks. "Hold on, are you—" "It's nothing. Forget it," she said, stumbling over her words. The blush crept up to her ears now. "No, hang on," I pressed. "Tell me why you're really here." She took a deep breath. "Your cancer was about to take you," she said, her voice spilling out fast and nervous. "I've been stretching your life out for a while now, through all those earlier fights with it, but there's a limit to how long I can nudge things. A year or 2 stops cutting it eventually. Sooner or later, the only way left is to, well, turn you into something like me." "But why me?" I asked, stunned. It didn't add up that I'd gotten this much focus from a goddess. "You don't have to work for me," she went on, dodging my question. "I don't actually need an assistant. I just wanted to see if you'd be okay with me sticking around somehow. Not as a boss, maybe, but a companion. Either way, the eternal life's yours. No obligations." "There's gotta be a hitch," I said. "Come on, why'd you pick me?" "Like I said, I've been keeping tabs on you. In this life as Emily. Before that as Clara. And the one before as Margaret. All the way back to the start. I couldn't bear watching you fade again. I just couldn't." Tears rolled down her sharp cheeks. The lady of the end was weeping in a grimy bar on Christmas Eve. "And I hoped," she said, brushing her face with her sleeve, "that after all these ages, you might be ready to speak to me again, maybe even let go of the past." "Sorry," I said, a laugh slipping out despite myself. "This feels like some wild prank." "Heh," she gave a low, wry chuckle. "Now you see why it's taken me thousands of years to muster up the guts to face you." "Did we know each other?" I asked, still grappling with the idea of past lives. "Like, before this, you were a goddess once, like me," she said softly. "But we clashed. You were through with me. So you shed your divinity, chose mortality, and stepped into the endless loop of life and death. Maybe you wanted me to hurt, watching you slip away time after time." She took a long gulp from her glass, her face tightening. If that was the plan, it worked. "Why don't I remember any of it?" I asked. "It's the price of being human," she said with a shrug. "You wanted to erase me, so you made sure you'd forget." I finished my drink in one go. "Okay," I said, taking her at her word. "What'd we fight about?" This was veering into crazy territory. Her dark eyes welled up again. "I just want you back," she pleaded. "Please." She stared at me, biting her lip, then seemed to settle on something. "I miss you, Marigold." When she said Marigold, a flood of memories hit me like a tide. Suddenly, I could recall every mortal life I'd lived, and the eons I'd spent as a goddess beside her. I remembered our falling out, the night I walked away. It all came rushing back. I looked at her hands fidgeting around her glass. "You're still wearing your ring," I murmured. "Never took it off," she said. She reached into her pocket, pulled out its twin, and offered it to me. "It's yours if you'll have it. If you'll have me." I looked at my wife, sitting with me at the sticky counter of the Tarnished Anchor on Christmas Eve, wondering why she'd picked this moment, this place, to bring us back together. Just two timeless beings, sipping whiskey sours in a quiet coastal town. I'd come here alone, thinking I had no one, not knowing she'd been guarding me all along. True, she'd coaxed me into taking back immortality, but that, and our old rift, dissolved like the ice in our glasses. I held out my left hand, welcoming her to slide my ring back where it belonged. I missed you too, Laurel.
Thank you for listening. Please share your thoughts, like this video if you found it helpful, and subscribe for more.